Hi, I'm an Australian and I'm living here in Belarus, and I have been for almost 1 year now. And I've also had the privilege of living in the USA for a bit longer in both New York and Michigan states. So I feel like I have a pretty decent handle on the two cultures, and I'm in a position to maybe make some comparisons. So I'll do that now, and I'll start with a really obvious one. Americans chat, they talk, right? They make comments to each other, they engage in random conversations, whether it's on the bus or it's in a cafe or wherever it is. They're just more likely to chat. And look, it's mainly surface level stuff, of course, but it's there and it's really prevalent. And this kind of helps their conversational skills. So quite often if you're chatting to an American, they can just talk. Like Americans can just talk, almost like a monologue for minutes and minutes and minutes and minutes, right? This is kind of how it works there. Now, here in Belarus, and that's off the back of being quite an individualist society, here in Belarus it's much more conformist society, and you need to fit in and do the right thing. And talking to random people is kind of weird. Like, why would you do that? Not necessarily bad, but weird. Like, what's the point? They don't tend to talk to each other here. They do have a lot of very strict social norms. There's a lot of social etiquette here as well. So the place runs really, really well from that perspective, but they just don't engage with each other unnecessarily. If you ask a Belarusian, what do you think about this? What do you think about Americans talking a lot more and you guys not? And there'd be two broad streams of thought. Some will say, well, it's kind of nice that you talk to each other, I guess. It's kind of friendly and nice, maybe. And then the other ones are like, well, it's just fake. It's just surface level fakeness. You don't even know the person, you don't actually care about them. So why are you talking to them? Like, why are you having this surface level conversation? It's really quite pointless. So that would be how Belarusians would think about that. Another really big difference are the low level, mid level kind of crime rates. I mean, in the US, you can have your bike stolen, your car broken into, your house broken into, mugged on the street, blah, 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 blah. All this stuff can happen in the US and does. Obviously, it varies a lot neighborhood to neighborhood, but it is a problem living in the US. Whereas Belarus is the exact opposite. I don't think crime exists here. This low-level street crime I'm talking about, theft, assault, this kind of stuff, it just doesn't happen here. Like, there's just no narrative around that. There's no role models to role model it. It just doesn't exist. It's really quite bizarre how incredibly safe and civil the society is here. So this is a big difference, and I'm very conscious that as I move on to another country after living here, that I need to adjust again, because I'm in this safety mode of I don't check anything, I don't lock my door, I never have my guard up in any situation because of the culture here. But I know wherever I go next, I've got to realign back to reality and start watching my back a little bit, right? Leading on from the crime, and kind of included in the crime bit, are the drug overdoses and drug use in America. Oh my goodness. I just searched this up, and it turns out that roughly 1 in 66 Americans, so 1.5% of Americans, will die from a drug overdose. What the bliat? That's a lot. And if you narrow it down to black men and white men, that goes up to above 2%. So about 1 in 45 black and white men will die of a drug overdose in America. And it's like, what are they doing over there? Like, what is wrong with the culture, right? This is a cultural issue. And the people who run the country seem to be oblivious as to how to handle this. They're trying to treat it as if it's a health problem. They're trying to treat it as if it's a legal problem. And yes, these things can help a little bit, but this is primarily a cultural problem. It's one of education against these things. And America is failing dismally at it. It's shocking when you hear these numbers. You go onto your Facebook or your Instagram and look at all the black and white men. So if you're American now, look at all the black and white men. 1 in 45 of those are going to die of a drug overdose. It's really backwards. It's really barbaric, and it's terrible. Here in Belarus, that does not fly. There's no narrative around drug use at all. Like, no narrative. It does happen. I'm aware of it happening, but it's a big social no-no. Big social no-no. And that's where conformist culture can be very effective in stopping social bads, if you will. And also you have a very strict legal system around this. There's no free pass because you're a victim. It's like, if you're in this, you're in a lot of trouble, right? So how the society views it is very, very different here, and as a result, it's just not here, like barely here at all. Finally, my favorite difference are the size of food portions. My goodness. I remember I was driving from Rhode Island back to New York. I'd been to the Newport tennis tournament, right? The only grass tournament outside of Europe. And I went down there and I was coming back and I was hungry, right? So I stopped at this kind of roadhouse kind of diner thing, just, I don't even know where it was, I think in Connecticut or something, right? So I pull over there, walk in, and I kind of noticed the size of people was quite impressive. And I look at the menu and it's like, all right, I want a burger. Give me a burger. Give me like the stuff with it. Because usually when I order, I don't get the fries with the Coke and everything extra. I just get the burger and maybe a bottle of water or something, right? So I'm like, give me the works, give it to me. So the girl brings out this hamburger with 2 massive meat patties. It must have been close to 1 kilogram of meat, I'm not joking. And I couldn't actually get my mouth around this burger. I had to pull it apart and eat it bit by bit. And then the fries, it must have been at least 1 kilo of fries. It's like, I'm just looking at this packet and I feel like I'm Fred Flintstone. If you remember this, the thing from the Flintstones when Fred Flintstone goes up in his car and he orders some dinosaur ribs or something, and then the attendant puts the ribs on the side of his car and the car just falls on its side, right? That's how I felt. And then there's the thick shake. Oh man, the thick shake, I don't know, at least 1 litre. But this was enough to feed me probably over 3 days, not just for 1 day or 1 meal, but I would say over 3 days. It was enough calories for me over that period of time. Now here in Belarus, that does not happen. It took me about 2 months to adjust, right? I was hungry after eating here. I would have extras. I'd have 2 meals sometimes. I'd buy something on the way home from dinner, extra to eat, a bit of chicken or something from the supermarket. It took me about 2 months for my stomach to adjust to this. So for example, when you go out for dinner here in Belarus, the menus have a number next to it. It has the price number, then it has the grams number. How many grams in total and how many grams of each thing. So maybe it's a bit of steak with some chips. It'll say 180 gram steak, 50 gram chips, 20 gram carrot, 30 gram something else, right? So you know exactly what you're eating and you can kind of manage it, but you don't have to because all the servings here are so sensible. And your typical serving size is like 300 grams. Whereas in some places in the States, as I said, that meal earlier I mentioned, I mean, that's got to be 2 kilos worth of food there. So these are 4 differences between living in America and living in Belarus, and differences in the culture and how they do things. Hope you enjoyed them. If you've noticed any differences in the 2 cultures, I'd love to hear your opinion in the comment section. As I said, I've been living here in Belarus for almost 1 year, so I've got some really good insights into this country. And this country is such a hidden gem. It's so hidden away from the world, and the people here are hidden away from the world as well. So it's a fascinating place to get to know. So if this interests you, I would recommend that you watch a few of my videos, and if you enjoy them, do consider subscribing to my channel.